This is George Dionne of the Rock is George podcast, and this is a KNAC.com exclusive interview with vocalist BJÖRN STRID of the Swedish AOR melodic rock act, the NIGHT FLIGHT Orchestra. If I knew absolutely nothing about the NIGHT FLIGHT Orchestra, how would you describe your music to me?
Oh, yeah, that's always a tough one. I mean, it's a super melodic outfit with like our roots in late 70s and early 80s music. Whether it be pop, rock, or disco, it's really all over the place. And it's definitely, it's definitely a rock band, but it has so many influences from, of course, there's ABBA in there, there's Kiss, there's American radio rock from the late 70s, there's Boston, there's Foreigner, there's Journey, and but it's definitely very multi-layered, and super melodic, and the best possible soundtrack of being in motion, I would say.
Now, it's quite the departure from your other gig in Soilwork. You're
Yeah, yeah.
a death metal band per se.
Mm, mm.
How did the idea for the NIGHT FLIGHT Orchestra originally come about?
Well, it all happened on tour in North America. This was probably in 2007 when David, who I founded the NIGHT FLIGHT Orchestra with, we were on tour together with Soilwork. We're on the road, and I got to know him on that tour because he was a session guitar player, and we really bonded over music, in general. And we always ended up in the back lounge listening to music, looking out the window, having a few drinks, and bonding so much, And at the end of that tour, we said we need to, start a band that captures, especially kind of that late 70s and early 80s music. We need to do that. So it was one of those drunken ideas that actually became reality in the end. So, which is pretty cool. And we came home, we started brainstorming around it, and it took us some time to get some members together, and we really wanted to provide something that we felt was missing out there. We wanted to fill a void, but we also wanted to create a soundtrack for ourselves of being in motion and being on tour. So that's really how it came about. And then we all went on a night flight somewhere, also with Soilwork. And I remember we're sitting there. It's like everybody's sleeping except us. We're sitting there having a Bloody Mary and listening to some great music. And that's how the NIGHT FLIGHT Orchestra came up. So yeah.
And here
Yeah.
we are on the verge of the NIGHT FLIGHT Orchestra's seventh studio album, Give Us the Moon, which comes out on January 31st, 2025 through
Mm.
Napalm Records. Are
Mm.
you the primary songwriter when it comes to the compositions, or does everybody have a hand in it?
I've written quite a bit on this album, and also Sebastian Forslund has been writing, and Rasmus Ehrenborn, the new guitarist as well, who stepped in after David passed away 2 years ago. So yeah, it's there's no contracts of who's writing songs or not. Everybody's free to contribute, so it's very much of a group effort. But yeah, I write quite a bit.
The album is described as as containing songs of uplifting escapism and stories inspired by real events. I kind of want to know which ones were inspired by real events.
Okay, yeah, for sure. There's as an example, there's Paloma, which is actually a liberation song for a stewardess that is a friend of me and my wife's, and she actually started dating a pilot who treated her really bad, and we got really frustrated and ended up with me writing a liberation song for her on a flight home from Alicante, and there was a stewardess on that flight named Paloma, so I took that name and I started writing on that very flight, and then I came home. It's like, here it is, and I need to write the music for it. So that's one of them. I'm happy to say that she has left the pilot by now, and that became, she was really happy about the song. So maybe it had something to do with it. Maybe it inspired her a little bit. And what else is there? There's also Melbourne May I, It's sort of a tribute to Melbourne, because I mean I've been to Melbourne quite a few times. I think I've been there like 11 times. We've done a lot of tours with Soilwork in Australia. But last year we went there for the first time with the Night Flight Orchestra, and the same day we flew out, I got to know that my mom had breast cancer. So it made the trip really, really tough. It's a long trip, going to Australia, and staying strong through that whole tour. And then we wrapped it up, I think, in Melbourne. And after that show, which was absolutely amazing and like electric, it was fantastic. And I kind of broke down a bit um, after that show, and being surrounded by my bandmates, it was a great support, and also being in front of that crowd, I had to write something, and so it's a tribute, and I'm glad to say that my mom is doing very well. So knock knock knock, and so everything is fine. But I think Melbourne definitely deserved a tribute there. So that's what it's about.
So is Stewardess Empress Hot Mess and the Captain of Pain similar to the woman you were writing about in Paloma?
Yeah, those are actually twin songs. So that song is actually about, the actual captain. And I'm sort of picking his brain a little bit, and playing sort of like a hobby psychiatrist, there's mentioning his relationship with his dad and stuff like that. I'm trying to figure out why he's acting the way he's doing, and so that's sort of his story as well. So that's how that came about.
Well, let's talk about the first single that you've released as of today, December 3rd. It's Shooting Velvet. Why don't you
Yeah.
tell me what inspired that song?
Well, that song was, I think, one of the first ones that I wrote for the album, and it's really about how things were used to be so much more simple when you were a kid, and you're clinging on to that and for dear life, and because I really believe that when you lose your inner child, you're done, and I think that's a really important thing to stay in contact with that inner child for the rest of your life. It needs to be there, because then you just find yourself being completely lost. But it's not easy, and we live in really weird times, and we're trying to escape, we're trying to distract ourselves, and yeah, it's really about how things used to be so easy, and there should be a way to go back to that, but it's really hard.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
The music video makes a little more sense to me now that you've clarified what the song's about. You have
yeah,
this classic TV show performance video that
yeah,
harks back to over here in America, I'd say Solid Gold or American Bandstand.
yeah.
You probably had similar shows over in Sweden. So why don't you tell me about, putting the idea or the video together?
Yeah, I mean, I sort of picture us. It started with me seeing Blondie performing at Top of the Pops, the British show, which was huge. I mean, we didn't really have it here in Sweden, but I've been watching so many clips, on YouTube from that era, and it's just fantastic. The setting, the lights, everything. So I wanted to sort of recreate that feeling of being in a TV studio, and especially with having the vibe with the colors and very glittery. It's sort of like a little bit of a disco vibe to it as well, I guess. And I think it turned out really good, and it really fits the song.
What are you planning for the second single from the album?
Well, we actually spent a night on the town here in Stockholm and decided to get it all on tape. So it's going to be come out, I think, within 2 weeks, or maybe even 10 days. So it's yeah, it's going to be out there real soon.
Now, I noticed that the Night Flight Orchestra released two standalone singles, one in 2022, Black Stars and Diamonds, and The Sensation in 2023. Were
Yeah.
these always meant to stay singles, or were they gonna be on the album but had to be cut?
Well, I think Black Stars and Diamonds, we were pretty clear on that one being like a standalone single. Sensation, we were not sure what was going to happen with it. But then we also, we have changed label to Napalm Records, and we used to be on Nuclear Blast, and that one was released on Nuclear Blast. So it would have made things quite complicated, I guess, to take that song and put it on the new album. But we also felt that when we started writing this new album, we wanted to start from scratch somehow. And even though there's some stuff that it's been lying around in the vaults for quite a bit, but I would say in general, it's really from scratch. We wanted to start fresh.
My next question was actually about you signing with Napalm Records for this album. How did it go down?
Well, I mean, we've had some really good years with Nuclear Blast. They did a great job, and they really believed in us and signed us when nobody else wanted to sign us. So I'm eternally grateful for that. And it just came to a point where we wanted to try out, something new, something else. And so far, we're really happy with Napalm Records, and we had our talks with them. Can't really remember exactly when that took place, but we really connected, and they seem to really get what we're doing. And yeah, looking forward. It's really exciting times, see what's going to happen with this album. Everybody seemed to like it, so a great start.
Now, the sound that the Night Flight Orchestra is known for uh, is sort of, I guess there's a record label over in Italy that's kind of known for that sound, and not so much Napalm Records, which is known for a heavier sound. Were you courted by that Italian record label, or even reach out to them?
Never, which is quite interesting. No, I mean, not as far as I know. No, nobody reached out to us.
All right.
And yeah, I mean, they have a lot of the AOR, and I mean, yeah, I mean, I think the Night Flight Orchestra is very much of an AOR band, but it's a different kind of AOR compared to most of the stuff that they release, in my ears at least, or in our ears.
True.
Yeah.
Now, you're all in on this nautical theme, from your album covers to your stage presence. I know you said that the idea of the band was born on an overnight flight.
Yeah.
Is Aeronautics something that you're actually into and are, interested by, or did that just become about because of the name?
Well, I mean, I do enjoy flying. I also hate it at times, so it's kind of mixed emotions there. But there's just something about it to you know be on a flight with a really good friend and listening to some great music and have a few drinks. It's like there's it's the greatest feeling in the world, and it's still kind of hard to accept that this huge steel bird can just take off, and how it's still the safest way of traveling. Like, how is that even possible, But it definitely fascinates me. It really does. And yeah, I love plane watching as well. I can just sit, and watch planes for hours taking off. I kind of like that. I'm no nerd, I'm not sitting there making notes when, the departures and everything, binoculars, not like that. But I don't know. There's a sense of freedom there, watching them take off and also being on the actual flight. So I guess we're building a lot around uh, we're romanticizing traveling, and it's because it's not that glamorous, as we all know, at times. Sometimes it is, but that's what we're trying. We're bringing back the old romantic times of traveling. So,
In conjunction with the album's release in January, you're going to kick off the Moon Over Europe 2025 tour.
yeah, yes.
Have you decided on a set list yet? How many songs from the new album you're going to be able to work in there with a 7 album catalog?
Yeah, it's not easy. It's a very tough job to put together the set list, but I reckon we're gonna do maybe 3, 4 songs off the new album, and then everything else is gonna be a bit of a mix. Yeah, it's it's gonna be interesting. We're actually discussing it right now as we speak. So we're gonna get together in January, do rehearsals and pre-production and all that. So yeah, I guess we'll end up having maybe 16, 17 songs or something like that in the set list, and hopefully everybody's gonna be happy in the end. So it's gonna be good.
You'll never
Mm.
please them all. Why didn't you
No, no, that's true. That's true. Who am I kidding? Yeah.
For the first part of the tour, you have Tragedy as a special guest. On the second half, you have METALITE. Have you played with
Yes.
bands before in the past?
No, we have not. Yeah, it's a tragedy is like a metalized Bee Gees cover band, which is very interesting. I'm very curious about that one. I know the guys personally in Metalite, great people, great band, so that should definitely click as well. It's kind of unusual to divide a tour into having two different um supporting acts or direct supports, so but I think it's going to be fun. I think it's going to be a great tour.
On the tail end of the tour, you're going to become the special guest for NESTOR, and I noticed that you played NESTOR Fest this year, so
Yeah.
obviously you guys are friends.
Yeah, I mean, it's even Sebastian Forslund, the guitarist in our band. He's mixing all the Nestor albums, so there's a strong connection. He's from the same city, and we also have people in our band that are from the same area as well. So yeah, there's definitely a connection. So that's going to be a great show as well in Gothenburg. The Night Flight Orchestra and Nestor. It's got a really good one.
You mentioned that Soilwork has played North America. Have you had a chance to play North America with Night Flight Orchestra yet?
We have not, no, which is just nuts to begin with. But we're 8 people. Visa costs have tripled. Tour buses have done the same pretty much, and so it's not easy. But we're doing Prog Power, and then hopefully we can build something around that. That's the plan. But it ain't easy. So
A lot of the Swedish acts tell me the same story.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
They're out of hand.
Yes, for sure.
So this AOR sound harken back to the 70s and 80s. Have you gotten any feedback from any bands from that era about your sound?
Uh, let's see. Not that I've heard. I mean, we opened up for Kiss, on their two very last shows in Sweden last summer, which was incredible. And they really seem to have liked us. Even Doc McGee came into our dressing room and said he really likes the band. He knows about the band. There's a reason why we got the gig. So I'm hoping that they might have heard something, and because they really treated us really well. We got 1 hour sound check. We got to watch the VIP show that they did, with songs that they never play live. I mean, it's absolutely amazing. And Gene Simmons came into our dressing room. He was dancing with one of the backup girls in the band. It was a good time, and Paul Stanley came up to us and asked how the show was, and really cool. So I mean, we got treated really well. So I'm eternally grateful to, to Kiss. That was what a wonderful experience.
Yeah, it sounds great.
Yeah,
I bet as a kid listening to Kiss records, you never thought there'd be a day where that would
I
happen.
know. Yeah, like the very two last shows in Sweden. It's just nuts, the whole thing. It really is.
So in between the Night Flight Orchestra, are you working on new material with Soilwork? I know you had an album in 2022. Is there going to be another one?
There will be, yeah. I mean, next year is mostly going to be a Night Flight Orchestra year, but we're also going to write the new Soilwork album and record it in the end of next year. So hopefully we'll get it out first half of 26. So yeah, there's things happening.
Did you ever consider having one band cover the other, like Soilwork does Night Flight or Night Flight Orchestra does Soilwork?
We have talked about it. It would have been pretty funny, but it's also we really want to sort of divide the two bands, and it's like for me, it's really two different things. It represents me in a really good way. What I'm about musically, and I feel like I have the best of both worlds, but I also want to really keep them separated. And maybe if we start doing something like that, maybe it will be too much, like, compare the two bands. I don't know. But then again, I think it would have been great fun.
Absolutely.
Yeah, yeah.
So I noticed you had a third project too. You're the guitarist for Donna Canone.
Donna Cannone. It's like Italian for the cannibal woman. Donna Cannone. Yeah.
I didn't have a chance to listen to that music. Why don't you tell me a little bit about that project?
Well, it's a band I have together with my wife, and also another close friend of ours who's also Italian, who's from Venice. My wife is from Verona in Italy, and the singer is from Venice in Italy as well. So we started the band, I guess, about 4 or 5 years ago, and just to get together and jam. My wife used to play guitar in the band THUNDERMOTHER as well, and when she left that band, she needed a break from music. But then, we kind of wanted to do something again, so we got that band together just for fun, and had so much fun that we had to release a record. So it's yeah, it's fun to play guitar for a change. I mean, it's kind of hard to describe the music. Has a little bit of the cult in there. Has some punky kind of influences. It also has sort of like the Danko Jones drive in there, and pretty straightforward stuff, but super melodic and a lot of guitar work as well. And it's been great for me to focus on the guitar for a change, because I'm really all over the place and I do so much singing. So it's been really nice, and hopefully we can get a second album together. But for now, check out the first album. It's pretty cool.
Now, did you and your wife meet while out gigging somewhere, or was it just totally by coincidence you happened to be musicians and met some other way?
We played at the same festival. We were playing with Soilwork, and she was in THUNDERMOTHER at the time. So we played the same festival up north in Sweden, and yeah, we were hanging out after the show, having a few drinks, and yeah, it was great fun, hanging out with both of the bands. So that was our first introduction. So.
Now, back in 2020, during the lockdowns, the pandemic lockdowns, you did a project called At the Movies. This is actually how I discovered you, and then eventually discovered Night Flight Orchestra. Fantastic,
Oh, cool.
fantastic little project where you and your friends covered 80s movie soundtrack, then eventually 90s music soundtrack. Is that going to end where it ended, or do you have plans to maybe revisit it at some point?
I mean, it was really a great concept, and I mean, I've met so many people say, "I love what you did at the movies. That was such a smart business idea." It's like, what? That was not a business idea. It's like there was no master plan. It was just really, like you mentioned, it's like some friends getting together. It was Chris Laney's, initiative, and it's like, oh, you want to, I'm so bored. You want to do something. You want to do a covers, like maybe do soundtrack 80s stuff in the metal style or whatever. It's like, yeah, why not. And we did that, and then I mean, at first I felt like, oh, this has been so done before, but it's a fun thing. Let's do it. But people were so happy, and they were raving about it. Like every Thursday, they could not wait to hear the new, like, what are you guys gonna cover next? And it made so many people happy during COVID, and that was so great to see. And then we ended up releasing these two albums, and it would have been a great concept to bring to festivals, and because there probably would have been other musicians and singers who would have liked to join for a song or two, if you're at the same festival anyway. So, but in the end, there's simply no time. I have Soilwork, I have Night Flight Orchestra, Chris Laney's back in Pretty Mates. We have Pontus in Hammerfall, and the other Pontus in King Diamond who's out touring now as well. And then we have Linnea singing in THUNDERMOTHER. So, I mean, I don't know, but it would be fun to do something. But who knows what's going to happen in the future? But for now, I mean, it's impossible. But it was fun.
Absolutely. Those are all the questions I have for you today, Bjorn. The new Night Flight Orchestra album, Give Us the Moon, comes out January 31st, 2025 through Napalm Records. Fantastic album. I wish you the best of luck with it, and I want to thank you for taking
Thank you
to speak.
Thank you so much.
and knac.com today.
My pleasure. I hope to see you soon. We're going to work hard at, getting a tour over to North America as well. So, yeah,
that would be great, man. And I think
yeah,
Napalm can help you do it.
yes, I hope so too.